A Liberal win seems extremely unlikely, but it's not absolutely impossible if absolutely everything goes well for the Liberals tomorrow. Here's the scenario. The Liberals are on 74 seats, they need 76. They can't lose even one seat in net terms, and even then, they'd still need two independents like Bob Katter to help them form even a minority government. So let's go state by state to see what would have to go right and what won't, with the help of two great campaigning brains. Bruce Hawker, who helped to run winning Labor campaigns and is now head of the Campaigns and Communications Group, and Liberal Senator James McGrath, an Assistant Minister and former successful campaign director for the Liberal National Party. Bruce, let's start with you. The big battleground Queensland, where the coalition must save 8 marginal seats that looked in real trouble. Leichhardt, Dickson, where Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton faces a massive campaign from GetUp. Flynn, Ford, 50-50 in the latest Galaxy poll. Capricornia, Dawson, held by George Christensen, who held that Philippine controversy. Brisbane and Bonner. And the coalition then must win Herbert near Townsville to balance losing, say, Petrie. First of all, can Peter Dutton survive in Dickson, do you think?
Yes, I think he can. When you get these high-profile campaigns being launched against an incumbent, quite often you're going to get a reaction from the electorate where they say, well, you know, we're not going to be pushed around like this. So he could hang on in Dickson. It's on the upper, it's on the north side of Brisbane. It's it's really in the fringes of Brisbane, and it's got a pretty conservative base, I think. It's been held by the Labor Party in the past, but I think he could hold on there.
What do you think, James? This is your backyard. Can the coalition save Dickson for Peter Dutton and maybe win Herbert?
I think so. In Queensland, I think is the most important state. You expect a Queensland senator to say that. The thing about Dickson is it's always been a marginal seat, and since Peter Dutton has held it since 2001, he's always had to run a marginal seat campaign. And he's got an energised blue army out there of people who've been door knocking and delivering leaflets. And so he's been campaigning essentially full time since 2001. I think Dutton will hang on. I also think, looking next door in Petrie, Luke Howarth, I think, will hang on. He is a brilliant local MP. He's got he's sort of like the Energizer Bunny on steroids sometimes, that guy, in terms of getting around the community. The thing about Queensland, if you want to talk more broadly, is at the beginning of the campaign, Labor were talking about picking up 8 to 10 seats. And that talk has certainly ebbed back out to sea. I think across Queensland, we're probably not going to lose anything. There's going to be some very tight contests. We are coming from behind, and that's thanks to Scott Morrison. He's just been pushing us along and making sure that we've got a fighting chance of holding on to government tomorrow.
So, James, you seem to be going along with my idea of no net loss of seats in Queensland for the coalition. Maybe even they pick up one. Bruce, do you go along with that?
No, but I don't think it's going to be a wipeout for the government in Queensland. I think they will hold on to Christensen's seat. I think those central Queensland seats are harder now for Labor because of the Adani issue. I'm not so sure, though, about seats like Leichhardt, where I think climate change is an issue that they're concerned about up there, and that's been front and centre for Labor's campaign. And
that's Warren Entsch's seat.
Yes, and I think in suburban Brisbane, there's more likely to be 1 or possibly 2 seats going Labor's way, because some of them are on an absolute knife edge, and the Adani issue doesn't play out so much in the south as we saw in the state election as it does in the north and or the far north. So, you know, Petrie could be a pickup for Labor, for example. A Ford, which is just south of Brisbane, around Logan, which was held by the barest margins at the last election. I think Labor could be in with a real shot there. So I don't
so you
really
might think about 2. You pick up and say 2, you think.
Yes.
All right, so New South Wales with the coalition.
But I think Herbert, by the way, will be very difficult for Labor.
Right. No, I factored that in, yeah. Well, to New South Wales, the coalition there must save Warringah, Tony Abbott's seat. They must win back Wentworth, Malcolm Turnbull's former seat, and then pick up, say, Lindsay, which is held by Labor's Emma Husar, who's sort of been forced out. And that's because, of course, the coalition looks like losing Cowper to former independent Rob Oakeshott, and Gilmore, where Warren Mundine is struggling to defend that. First of all, James, do you think Abbott can hang on?
I think Tony can hang on. I was down there a couple of weeks ago, door knocking with Tony, and he has a very good reaction on the doorstep. Clearly, you know, Labor are running dead in that seat, and Get Up are putting immense resources into Zali Steggall, who, you know, is, I'm going to be blunt, is just a fake candidate in terms of pretending to be a small Liberal when she's clearly quite left-wing. I think Tony can hang on because he's another... One of the things we've got to remember is I think, and I believe, that our MPs are better at being entrenched in their community, and Tony certainly is entrenched in the Warringah community. Has been an MP there since 1994, whether it's the Surf Life Saving or helping out at the Davidson Rural Fire Brigade. People sort of know him as a good local MP. So I think he can hang on. Certainly it's going to be tight because of the amount of money that the left are spending in that seat.
But obviously, the Get Up and all that, Bruce, are putting in huge resources there. What do you think? Will we see Abbott back in Parliament?
Look, at the outset, I'd say I don't think it really matters so much in terms of the exercise that we're going through now, because Zali Steggall and Karen Phelps, if they were to win, would support the government on critical issues like supply. They've made that pretty clear. So I don't think that's going to be a huge plus for the government if they hold on to either of those seats. But I do think that the issues which have been running in this campaign have probably helped Abbott somewhat, because you know, if you get down to franking credits and issues like negative gearing, they're the sorts of things which are going to concern an ageing population, I think, in a seat like Warringah, and will also affect the thinking of people in Wentworth. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if both Schwammer and Abbott held on, or Schwammer won back the seat and Abbott held on in Warringah. That's my gut feeling.
So, James, overall, do you think this is going to be, again, no net loss of coalition seats in New South Wales? I mean, like I say, that presumes that you're going to lose Gilmore and Cowper.
Look, I think Cowper's probably too close to call at the moment. But from my Liberal Party friends in New South Wales, they are talking about Lindsay and Dobell as possible gains, saying it's very close. Too close to call it in those seats. So, but overall, I think in New South Wales, probably we might pick up one net seat, or it might be just even Stevens.
Right.
What can I say? I'd be doubtful about that, to be frank. I mean, there are seats like Reid, Banks, Robertson, all of which are on knife edge, and I think it's going to be unlikely that the government would come out ahead in New South Wales, or even hold the line in New South Wales, because, as I said, I don't see Warringah or Wentworth as being in play, in a sense, for the government. They're going to hold those seats, whether it's Steggall in there or...
In that case, Bruce, I'm going to add one more to your tally from New South Wales. You're up 3 so far.
Yeah.
To South Australia, the Liberals have to save their seat of Boothby, held by Conservative Nicole Flint, young, up and coming. Can they do that, James, and lose no other seats in South Australia?
I think they can do that. The campaign down there is helped by Nicole being a brilliant local member, helped by ScoMo being the leader, but also by Stephen Marshall being the Premier. He's been out door knocking in the seats in South Australia. He's a popular figure, and his endorsement of Nicole is certainly going to help her. I understand that Labor and the unions are really carpet bombing the seat, and it'll be ground zero tomorrow. But it's a first-term member. I think she's got the ability to hold on. Sorry, she's a second-term member. She's got the ability to hold on because of her getting out in that community.
But Bruce, you were intimately involved with a brilliant election campaign there that saved the bacon of the state Labor government. What do you think? Will there be no net change of seats in South Australia?
Well, Boothby's on 2.7, so it's not a huge number, but but by the same token, you know, the overall margin at the moment is 51-49, so that sort of technically puts it in the government column still. The only thing I'd say about Boothby is that it's an electorate where issues like climate change, which have been big issues for Labor in the south of the country particularly, play out. So, but just to be on the Conservative side, I'd say no net change in South Australia.
Okay, you're still up by 3 then. Just whiz through quickly WA. We've still got Victoria to go. The coalition has to save in WA Hasluck, held by Minister Ken White. It's only Indigenous Minister, but in a bit of trouble with office politics. The latest Galaxy poll says a 50-50. What do you reckon, James? Can the coalition hang on to Hasluck and all its other West Australian seats as well, several of which looked like going to Labor not that long ago?
Yeah, I think we can hang on in WA. You're right. A couple of months ago, WA looked very tough for us, but it's come back. And I think Ken will hang on in Hasluck. I think Andrew Hastie in Canning will certainly hang on, and also Christian Porter in Pearce. And also, that I wouldn't rule out something interesting happening in Cowan in terms of us, giving Labor a fright there, or even taking that seat off Labor. The sitting Labor member hasn't been a brilliant local member, and there's a lot of local issues there. So that seat could become very interesting tomorrow night.
Well, I'm going to call it a draw then there. And now to Victoria, Bruce. Here's a good one for you.
Well, I don't agree, by the way. I think in WA we could, I think Hasluck will go to Labor, and and it's one of those states where they could get 1 or they could pick up another 3. It's very uncertain.
I've got to move on.
But I have to be +1.
I've got to move on, but I'm going to add 1 to you. So you're up 4. Victoria, the coalition's got to save Corangamite, Sarah Henderson's seat, Latrobe and Deakin. It must then win Indi near Wodonga, last won by independent Cathy McGowan. But it almost certainly will lose Chisholm and Dunkley. Now, that leaves it down, on my scenario, by 1 seat net. James, does that sort of seem realistic to you?
Look, Chisholm is certainly going to be really tough for us with Julia Banks doing the rat run. And the redistribution in Dunkley has made that seat certainly tougher for us. I think it's notionally a Labor seat now.
It is, yeah.
So that's a really tough. It's a tough seat for us to hold. Chris Kruth is working very hard. Corangamite, I'm pretty certain will hold on to that seat. Sarah Henderson, has become the billion-dollar lady in terms of all the infrastructure she's been put into that seat. Very close
and
seat.
Indi?
I think we'll hang on to that one.
Indi,
I think Indi will come back to the coalition family.
Bruce, do you disagree with any of that?
Yeah, I think Corangamite is more likely than not to go to Labor, because it is essentially a Labor seat now, as is Dunkley because of the redistribution. They basically are in the Labor column already. Chisholm, I think, is a real possibility. Latrobe, regional electorate in Victoria. I think Labor could pick up a net 2 or more in Victoria.
All right, I'll make it 2 to be Conservatives. You're up 6. And finally, assuming there's no change in the Northern Territory and ACT, it comes down to Tasmania, with the government 1 seat down. I've got to go.
Jump in there? Northern Territory, Solomon and Lingiari, the Michael Gunner government is on the nose there. I've been up there a couple of times. Those seats, I reckon we're going to pick those seats up. I'm actually quite confident about them, based on how unhappy people are with Michael Gunner. They really want to kick
and then
him.
finally, the seat of Braddon in Tasmania. Can you pick that up, James?
I think Bass and Braddon are looking really interesting. Speaking to
right.
my Tasmanian Senate colleagues,
I'll give you one of them
they're
then.
quite confident about it.
And Bruce, will you hold them?
I don't think there'll be any change in Tassie, and I don't think there'll be any change in the Territory either.
All right.
I think...
Well, let me just sum up, guys. Let me sum up this interesting exercise. You, James, reckon that you could actually win by... you could actually have a majority with one extra seat than you need. And Bruce, you think Labor will pick up at least 6 seats from the government, and that will leave it well in with a small but workable majority.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for that exercise. I think that's fascinating. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
All a pleasure.
Thank you, Andrew.